Hello, race fans. Kyle Morse here on behalf of Come On YouTube and The Old Historic. As we prepare for the highly anticipated upcoming release of Season 2 of The Old Historic, I found new editing skills and several more photos to help further document the racing history of my hometown, Nazareth, Pennsylvania. Today we tell the story of the early beginnings of one of the most esteemed careers in motorsports history as I sit down with Mr. Mario Andretti to share some rarely told stories about his time racing the Nazareth Speedway. I hope you enjoyed this rebooted premiere episode of The Old Historic as much as myself and Mr. Andretti did when we recorded it back in October of 2022. As always, thank you so much for your support of my content in this series, and we'll see you back here tomorrow as we look back at episode 2 with Mr. Jim Hans. A wise man once said, I lived a true American dream because I was able to pursue what I set as my goals at a very young age. That man? Well, that would be none other than my friend Mr. Mario Andretti. And the goals he's referring to led him to one of, if not the most legendary careers in motorsports history. 4 IndyCar championships, Pikes Peak, Sebring, Le Mans, and oh yeah, the only driver to ever win the Daytona 500, Indy 500, and Formula One World Championship. The resume is just incredible to say the least. But like all great stories, this one has to begin somewhere. And for us, it's almost 70 years ago when Mario and his twin brother Aldo left their homeland of Italy and started a new life in the United States, settling in the small and quiet town of Nazareth, Pennsylvania. Let's hear the story of how one of the most prestigious careers in auto racing began. Let's head into the Old Historic. Nazareth, Pennsylvania. For over 100 years, it's been my family's home. But stemming past my roots, this quiet little Lehigh Valley town plays host to some of the greatest racers in both the Northeast and even the world. I'm Kyle Morris, lifelong Nazareth resident and avid race fan. Join me on this personal journey as I head into my backyard to discover some of the best untold and most well-known racing stories. From weekly Sunday night battles to a legendary family and even an up-and-coming generation of talent, you never know what you're finding. The Old Historic. Hello, race fans. Welcome into the inaugural episode of The Old Historic. And to get this series started, I am so honored to be joined by this gentleman to my right, amongst other things. He's the 1967 Daytona 500 winner, the 1969 Indy 500 winner, and the 1978 Formula One World Champion, Mr. Mario Andretti. Mr. Andretti, thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure, Kyle. Good luck with your show.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. So Mr. Andretti is going to be joining us today, guys. He's going to take us through his early beginnings at the Nazareth Speedway. We have a couple pictures and trading cards that you see flashed up on the screen, detailing just the early start of his career before any national races or anything. It all started here in Nazareth, Pennsylvania.
Indeed it did. Actually, we'll start with the first car that we built. This is a 48 Hudson Hornet. Was a specific model because we needed a wide rear track, so to speak. And anyway, we got some good information on what to do with it. One of the gentlemen that you see here was pretty well tuned into what was going on, at that level. We didn't know. My brother Aldo and I, we just wanted to do it. We spearheaded the program, but we needed a lot of help, and we got it. Anyway, we built this car. We started working on it in 1957. I was 17 years old. And that's 2 years after we came to the United States.
So what brought you to the United States?
Well, it's a long story. Why Nazareth? There was an uncle on my mother's side that lived here, so that's why we came here. Anyway, so we built that car. When the idea was to start racing at 1961, which would have made me 21, because you had to be 21 to legally race professionally in those days. But we finished the car in 2 years, so I was ready in 59, and Aldo and I, my twin brother Aldo and I, used to hang out at my uncle's gas station, Snorkel station at the end of town there. We befriended many people. Among them was Les Young, who was the editor of the Nazareth Key, and we asked him to fudge our birthday on our license. It worked. And we fibbed that we used to race in Italy and so on and so forth because we looked pretty young. And so as you can see, one of these photos, see we had this racing uniforms on.
Yeah.
You know, so mine was white, Aldo's was blue, and we wanted to look the part. Those Sala Sport uniforms from Italy.
Oh wow.
That's where we sent for them, and I don't know where we got the money for it, but so anyway, we looked the part, and the very first race, you know, we had one car, two drivers, only one helmet.
Oh wow.
And toss, Aldo wins the toss. I was actually happy. And fortunately, however, another thing, I get ahead of myself. We befriended the promoter of the track, of the races, which and Jerry Freed, nice guy, and he let us do a day of testing the Thursday before the race.
Before the races.
And which obviously gave us a taste of things, you know,
right,
and so forth, because we didn't know what the hell we were doing. And anyway, and they started Aldo last in the heat. He won the heat.
Wow.
They started him last in the feature, and he won the feature. The very first, I couldn't believe my eyes what I was seeing.
Wow. No way.
So the point I'm making is, we did a pretty good job with the car.
Yeah.
And not credit to us, but to our buddies there. And so the season progressed. I won the following weekend, and Aldo and I used to alternate. You know, one weekend he would drive, and sometimes we would drive 2, sometimes 3 different tracks.
Oh wow.
And we primarily used to drive Nazareth, sometimes Flemington, and Mahoney Valley.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was a great season until the very last race of the season, which was an invitational in Hatfield, Pennsylvania. And you had to be 13 points in one of the tracks within 150-mile radius, you know. And both Aldo and I would qualify for that, so we both were invited. And I got a ride with a gentleman from Allentown, and Aldo drove our car. And in a heat race, he was fighting with the track champion at the time, and and he was qualified, you know, in the heat.
Right.
You know, I think 4 or 5 cars would qualify, and for the main event. And I was trying to slow him down because I was already qualified, and pretty much almost the last lap of the race, he hooked the guardrail coming out of turn 2, and he flipped end over end, and he was taken to the hospital in a coma. He was in a coma for a long time. He was in a coma for about 40 days. And and that affected his career throughout, you know, but it was a tough ending of a good season for us. And the next car that we built was, we decided to go to a coupe. There was a long story as to why that car worked so well, because of the torsional stiffness, but we thought we'd get a lighter car, and we decided to go with a Hudson again, because we had a Hudson engine. And we went with a 37 coupe, and which is right here. But Aldo took a sabbatical that season, and I was winning some races. And about mid-season, he was belly aching. Oh, I want to drive, but he wasn't ready. And we talked to Jerry Freed to allow him to warm up the car during intermission, right before the feature. And he went out, and here again, you know, coming out of turn 2, there was a big post there at the entry to the pits. The pits were outside of turn 2, and here again, end over end. I mean, there was a photo in I think in Eastern Express or something, with a car up in the air. And luckily, he only had a broken finger on that one. But he destroyed that car. And and we worked day and night, the following week for me to make the race, and we built this sedan, 37 sedan, and I, obviously, I was in that race, and there was a yellow, and somehow it was a hurried up job.
Yeah.
And the brake line was in an area where it got pinched.
Oh no.
During the race, so I had no brakes. And I figured I had to decide, oh man, because I was starting, I was in the middle of the pack, and because they used to start us last, and so I figured, man, what am I gonna do? Should I pull it in? I figured, screw it, I'll keep going, and I won the race, and I won like 24 races that year. So again, this encompasses 2 years. The full year, the first year we did with the 48 Hudson.
Yeah.
We drove ourselves this, and the second year we drove these 2 cars, and then I went on to midgets, driving midgets. I got out of the stock cars. Aldo continued, however. He continued for another year, and so on and so forth. But that's the story of what we have here. Great moments because, when you're winning, you're winning. I mean, you're going forward. I think everything started much better than we could have dreamed. And it was another guy that actually deserves, is no longer with us, so much credit for steering us in the right direction was Charlie Mitch. He lived in Bath. Nice guy, really good kid, and but he really knew about stock cars, and the reason that we chose that 48 Hudson was because in NASCAR, on all the short tracks, those are the cars that were winning most of the races.
Oh, gotcha, yeah.
So, here in Nazareth, they were running, cut down 30, 37 or 32 Chevys or whatever.
Right, yeah.
And when we arrived with that, everybody was almost laughing. Well, they weren't laughing anymore.
When you started beating them, yeah.
We started beating them. So.
Oh wow.
Anyway, but then I went with the sedan because a guy by the name of Boopsie Arner, and I don't know what his real name was, from up the line. I think it was, I don't know exactly where it was, but he was winning some races with a Hudson. With a sedan, so we went with the sedan, but we really reinforced it torsionally, because when you put crossweight in it, you used to get a lot of flexibility, so the car would not repeat.
Right.
But we could run this thing just sideways on the outside, and it was really it was interesting also that the engine that we bought for this, we found that. When Hudson pulled out of racing, they sold a lot of the race engines to Whitney Company. There was a company that out of Chicago. They were selling them for power plants.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and we bought an engine to race in there, which was they used to call it the 7X engine.
Okay.
And it was it served us well. So. Anyway, we were lucky, to have buddies that helped us so much.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
But Charlie Mitch, actually really steered us in the right direction, and couldn't have done it without him. So we look back, at a time that was pivotal for us.
Sure.
For me, my career started there, and never wavered. I raced right through from there, right through straight to 1994, and only missed 2 races because of injuries.
Wow.
So I've been blessed, obviously, and so again, but when I look at all these photos and everything, it brings back, some good memories for sure. And,
yeah. Was there a favorite memory that stands out in particular? I know you had so many years in there, but is there one memory in particular you could think of that really jumps out when, I mentioned the name Nazareth Speedway to you?
Well, it's nothing like, winning your first one,
Right.
the one that was least expected.
Uh-huh.
So when you go back, I don't think you could top that one.
Okay, yeah. That would have been that first season, right?
First season, first race.
Crazy.
For me, and I won it. Aldo won his first race. I won my first race. Doesn't get any better.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I know the story too in May 1969 when you won the Indy 500. I know that night I jumped in the car and won the dirt track, right? After the Indy 500 parade.
Oh, well, you mean in Nazareth?
Correct, in Nazareth.
Well, that was later, much later. It was like in July.
July, okay.
When the race was in Nazareth,
Mm-hmm.
and I won that one, for sure. That's the night that my daughter Barbie was born.
Yeah. I just think it's so crazy to think, you were celebrating one of the biggest wins of your career, and then, you go out just to the local track, win that night, and then, like you said, a couple hours later, you're at the hospital celebrating the birth of your daughter. I just can't imagine what a whirlwind of emotion that must have been. Thinking about it in today's world, it's just crazy for sure. I mean, just looking back on the memories and that,
Indeed.
All right. Well, Mr. Andretti, I really appreciate you coming on with me. Thank you so much for joining me. Guys, if you want more motorsports content like this, be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell down below. More great content to come like this. For Chemo on YouTube and the Old Historic, my name is Kyle Morse saying thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time in the Old Historic.